Hey everyone, my name is Chris Lambert, and on this channel we talk Kanye West, and the video topic today is obviously when in the world is Jesus is King going to come out? I almost said when in the world is Yandi going to come out because I'm still not over that. So Jesus is King, we haven't heard anything, right? 27th was the day, and we were told 8 p.m. that night by Complex Music, citing the publicist that used to work with Kanye, but according to Team Kanye Daily, no longer does, without any other confirmed source. And then 8 o'clock came and went. The Jesus is King experience in Detroit got to hear the album, but there was nothing released to streaming services or anybody else. Kim then tweeted, or no, posted on her Instagram story that it was going to come out Sunday. It just needed a bit of mixing and last touches. So everybody's hyped for Sunday. Midnight, Saturday into Sunday, no album comes out. So everybody's expecting, maybe in the afternoon after Sunday service. Nada. At the Jesus is King experience that night. Nope. And there hasn't been a single word from anybody in the aftermath of it. The only thing that we had today was a TMZ article that said an unknown source told them that Kanye has just been continuing to tinker with the album, that it's finished, but each time he listens to it, he finds something else that he wants to change. So, yeah. And that story kind of got a bit blown out of proportion, just a little bit. I actually got in a bit of a Twitter fight as my cat's biting my foot. I got in a bit of a Twitter fight with Fader because Fader was just like, it's delayed indefinitely. Like a little dramatic, Fader. Like, it is delayed indefinitely, but that's kind of the language you use when it's an official halt to production. Like when Kanye tweeted in November of last year, after performing, I realized the new album I've been working on is not ready. That you can say it's delayed indefinitely. At this point, we don't know if Jesus is King is going to drop any minute, any second, tonight, tomorrow, or if it's delayed. Right? There's a difference between, I think, the album being delayed and, no, I don't know what I'm going to say there. But anyway, I thought that we could look at potential dates for the album possibly releasing that make the most sense given what we currently know. So first up, any moment, right? We kind of had a similar experience with The Life of Pablo in that after the Madison Square Garden Yeezy Season 3 show, we thought we were going to get the album. He played it. It's going to release. He even announced it, I think, like what the website was, and then nothing. And everybody was just wondering what the hell was going on. Refreshing our Kanye, refreshing Twitter, checking Mike Dean's Instagram and Twitter and Periscope. Nothing for days and days and days until right before Saturday Night Live. And this was 4 days later, February 10th to February 13th. Kanye, at the end of his last musical performance, said that the album was now available on KanyeWest.com. Yeah! The noise that he made. But then it still wasn't available for another couple hours, which just sent people into a tizzy. So we had that. And then with Ye, right, it was supposed to come out Friday, June 1st. It didn't end up coming out until, 9 a.m.? Or early in the morning rather than the night of the listening party or right at midnight. And same thing happened a week later with Kids See Ghosts. I think it actually ended up coming out in the afternoon. So there was even longer of a delay, and there was a longer delay with Nazir, and then a longer delay with Keep That Same Energy. So Kanye with release dates has been lingering a bit after, like in the ballpark, but not necessarily like on target. This could be another case of that, which is why any moment seems viable. But given where we are in the week now, from a business perspective, it would make the most sense to wait until Friday again. There's a reason why artists release on Friday, and that's because that's when Billboard tabulates all of its data for the week's rankings, right? So if you release on Saturday or Sunday, you miss out on all the plays you would get from that week. So instead of 7 days, you're getting 6, 5. If Kanye were to release, on a Tuesday, he's only getting 3 days worth of streams. and sales and all of that, which would mean that he might debut at number 124 on the chart or something, which to an artist at Kanye's level, I mean, these artists compete for number one, not just out of pride, but because it determines a lot of their business viability and the numbers that they can then take to somebody to say, hey, give me this amount of money. So it's still kind of a numbers game at the end of the day, and something that the label cares about, and yada, yada, yada. So releasing on a Friday makes kind of the most sense at this point, given where we're at. Then 1025. So it was announced that Kanye West and IMAX are collaborating on the release of the new film, Jesus is King, to be released exclusively in IMAX theaters around the world on Friday, October 25th. So some people think that that might be the date. And honestly, there's somebody that we talked to on social media that works with a radio station, and they were telling us on Wednesday of last week, before the album was supposed to come out even, that it was going to be delayed, that they had heard from Def Jam that it was not going to come out that weekend. And then they heard on Friday in the morning, again from Def Jam, that the album was going to come out on 1025. So when Kanye played the album that night and said it was going to be released that weekend, it kind of didn't coincide with what this person had heard. And actually, DJ Booth, who I often give a lot of shit to, but DJ Booth also reached out to Def Jam, and they were told it wasn't going to be dropping and was going to look more towards an October release date. So, I mean, it would make sense somewhat for Kanye to release the album to coincide with the movie, just to get hype going. But I think there's arguments either way, right? If he releases the album ahead of time, that could hype people for the movie. Maybe you don't want to double up because people are only going to spend money on one thing that weekend. So they're going to buy the album, or they're going to go to the movie, or if they're listening to the album, they may not go to the movie. So I could see it coming out before the 25th. But then we have our worst case scenario, and that it comes out even later, right? I mean, last year, and it does seem like we're in some kind of sick cycle where everything's repeating, right? Like Kanye announced Yandi in September of last year. He announces Jesus is King right at August 29th. Yandi is supposed to release on 9/29, Jesus is King on 9/27, and then 9/29. Neither come out. Then Yandi is supposed to release on Black Friday in November. So is there a potential that we're now going to be told that it's going to release on Black Friday and just living the same events of 2018 over again? And the other thing that makes sense beyond just Black Friday would be Christmas. I mean, if Kanye, from all accounts and sounds of it, is back on his faith, right? And he's saying that he's not going to make secular music anymore, that he's found his religion. He even said that he regrets calling himself Yeezus and calling The Life of Pablo a gospel album. He's on that level of where his faith and religion is at. I mean, it is possible that he could feel so attached to Christmas as a date, since it was the birth of Jesus, right? That's why we celebrate it. I'm very Jewish and agnostic, so some of these things are beyond me. I've learned a lot about the Bible from Kanye this last year, though. Okay, so Christmas would be the next date, or New Year's, I guess. But that would be horrible if we have to keep waiting for that long. There is some precedent for that. Like, people have argued that The Life of Pablo wasn't seriously finished until 4 months after we actually got it. Kanye kept going back in and tinkering with it. When College Dropout leaked early, Kanye was kind of unhappy with how it sounded and a little bit frustrated that it leaked and people were hearing it. So he actually went back and spent a couple months reworking it and getting it into the final form that we all know and love. I think at the end of the day, whenever it releases, and I still think it's going to release, and that's another one of the things. I saw some people comparing it to other Kanye albums that hadn't come out ever, right? Like winter, spring, summer, fall. And it's like, well, Winter, Spring, Summer, Fall was a concept that he announced in an interview with a French magazine in 2009. We still got My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy a year later in 2010. Somebody else had mentioned Good Ass Job. It's like, yeah, Good Ass Job was a concept too, but was never really a fully worked on project. Kanye made Graduation, and then his mom died not long after, and we got 808s and Heartbreak after that, which still kind of works with the idea of Good Ass Job. Like Graduation, he's already tilting to fame being destructive, and 808s and Heartbreak following up on that is kind of perfect. Where if he was just celebrating how good and great everything is, that wouldn't have made sense given how frustrated he was. I mean, we know 8 and 8s is how he was feeling. 808s was how he was feeling. And then somebody else mentioned So Help Me God, which, yeah, So Help Me God, but that's kind of the Yandhi relationship, right? Like, So Help Me God was the original attempt by Kanye to make the life of Pablo. He wanted to do something with faith. He wanted to do something addressing religion and his return to religion, or his struggle with religion, as So Help Me God is kind of a call, right? And he had Wolves that was going to be on the album. We heard that early in 2015. So some of the concepts were there, but he just didn't like his first go at it. And with Yandhi, it was the same thing. Some of the songs from Yandhi have made their way over to Jesus is King. And it does seem like Yandhi kind of kicked off the flow of events that led to Jesus is King, to the point where people are kind of treating it as just a name change. I think So Help Me God was Life of Pablo was the finished and ultimate form of So Help Me God, just like people are saying that Jesus is King is the ultimate form of Yandhi. So yeah, you can cite So Help Me God as an album that never came out, but it did. And Jesus is King, if that's what we're looking at, would be like Yandhi. Like I just said, now I'm repeating myself. But I don't know. I don't think Kanye. My whole point is Kanye hasn't gotten this close to releasing an album where there's actual listening parties, and he's playing the music for people, and it doesn't come out. Even with Yandhi, he never played music for anybody in the same way, right? He wasn't doing listening parties for it. He wasn't releasing merch for it. It still seemed like even as far as he got, there was still it never made it out of its concept phase or out of its rough draft phase, which is why when you listen to the leaks, it's a similar thing. Like, this is very rough. This is very unfinished. And you can see even some of the people that have heard New Body and the new version of, the new Body. People have said it's much better than what it was on the leaked version. And I think that's just Kanye going through his process. So I think that's everything that I got. If you want to read something absurd that I wrote, I literally just released it. Will Kanye West Jesus is King release? The Beautiful Irony of Faith. And I go from talking about The Walking Dead to telephones to music in movies, and somehow bringing in Ross and Rachel, to The Sound and the Fury and William Faulkner, all the way to what went on with Jesus is King, and ultimately to this final question. So it helps me if you look at the article. The link will be down below. Otherwise, if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, go ahead and leave them. And we'll be back talking about more Jesus is King content soon. Hopefully we have some more answers in the next couple days. But until then, stay wavy and keep it loopy. Cheers.